be aware that it's tough to be a kid these days. We're doing things now. So it's a challenge every day to take the old lesson and say, okay, how can we do this better?
Hello everyone and welcome to Inspiring Teachers. This is episode 3 and what a journey it's been so far. If you missed last week, go check out our conversation with Joshua Colley about literature and teaching with passion and teaching with equity. Today we have another very special guest and we're so glad to tell you about it. I'm Danny Hauger along with
Tavis Beam.
And we're joined by Todd Weinert. Todd, wow, that's a great start. Todd, how are you doing today?
It's a tough name to pronounce. I'm doing great. Glad to be here. Thank you very much.
I could get Giannis Antetokounmpo, and I couldn't get Todd Weinert. There we go. So thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure. I've known you for about half a school year now, and it's been really neat getting to know you. One of the things that I'm appreciating about moving from a small school to a larger school is the lunchroom. Because before, there was nobody in the lunchroom where I came from, and it wasn't a time to communicate and to get to know other teachers and philosophies. And one of the strongest things I felt about my new school since I started is the teaching staff, I feel, is really a quality group of people. And getting to know you kind of early on, doing some teacher improv one night early on, that was the first night I felt really comfortable at the new school. So thank you for being a part of that, and thanks for being here today.
Oh, you're very welcome. Glad I could help you.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking about how you came to teaching, I've never asked you your story. So could you let us know, what is your background and how did you come into the teaching profession?
Well, I actually have a degree from UC Santa Barbara in computer science and graduated in 1985 when they were just banging rocks together and worked in that field for about 10 or 11 years and enjoyed it immensely. It's challenging and fun, and I got a lot of opportunities to do a lot of travel and meet people. And but at some point, I just realized, I think what happened was there's in the Unix operating system, everyone's going to want to know this, is,
finally we get down to it.
If you want to remove a file, you just type rm. And if you want to remove all the files, you type rm ***. And I just kind of realized that my entire life's work could be deleted with 5 character strokes. Okay. It could just go away and nobody would really care because they would have moved on to something else. Mm-hmm. Everything I did would have been outdated in 6 months and gone in 2 years. And I thought about some teachers I had and the effect that they had on me and the direction that they put my life on. And I thought, I want to have that kind of lasting imprint. I don't want to have just nothing, at the end of my life that as far as, and I know that we have other things going on in lives other than our work, but I just wanted my work to be part of that.
I get that a lot. That tracks a lot with some conversations we had last week with Joshua too, that we're kind of looking for a way to have a bigger impact or a greater meaning. And for me, it was waking up from the fact that baseball, 4-2 Angels, 3-2 Angels, 2-1 A's, repeat next week when they play again 4 more times. And I enjoy baseball. It's a great pastime, but I realized, again, I could be replaced by anyone reading numbers. And when I was doing radio traffic is slow every day from 3 to 7 in downtown Los Angeles. And I was just repeating that cycle. Right. And what if I could inspire someone to get up out of the cycle that they would be projected into and have a greater impact? So I think that's neat. And so you were in the middle of a big development in the computer science industry, right? During times when that was expanding.
There was a whole internet.com boom and everything like that.
So you could have maybe sidestepped to a different organization or a different role in technology maybe. Was that of interest to you? Or did you, at that point, jump into the course of becoming a teacher?
I just kind of decided that I thought teaching would be a great place for me. I worked with youth, and I thought, I'm pretty good at that. And
How did you work with children at that point?
I worked through our church in the youth group and Sunday school and stuff like that. So I knew a lot of different ages and had worked in that. Not the numbers that you get when you're teaching, but it was a good indication to me that, it's something I would enjoy.
Yeah.
Was there ever a question of what subject you would teach, or did you know what you wanted to teach right away?
Well, my original credential was multi-subject. So I had...
me too.
I stepped into a second grade class at a private school. Mm-hmm. So little ones, and we had a blast. I was the only second grade teacher, so there was not some competition that I had to be better than some other teacher, and I could do things that they gave me a lot of latitude on what to do. And we just had a good time in the class, and I really feel like I was able to challenge them. And
how long did you do primary?
I did that for, about 10 years.
Wow.
And then at the Christmas time, they came to me and said, well, they were having to remove a teacher in the math and science levels in the middle school.
Okay.
And I was the only one who really had that kind of background. So they asked if I could move up to there, and then they moved someone into my spot.
Right.
And so then I was math and science. Mm-hmm. And
so you were a core teacher, math sci?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had, all these different preps because every class is different, and I didn't have the opportunities that we have now to do the same lesson 4 times a day. But it was that was also cool. I got to see some of my second graders again,
right,
and came in and again to challenge them in ways, and to really kind of, in a lot of cases, several cases, I got feedback from parents and from students that they chose their career in science because of what we did in science class.
Wow.
Sometimes in second grade, sometimes in the middle school. So,
and I'm sure that relationship that you built with the second graders really paid off later when you had them.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, Mr. Weinert again. That was kind of cool to see them at a different stage in their life.
Right.
So.
Is there a story that connects to what you just told us about etymology and someone pursuing a career? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I just attended a college graduation for a former student who was in my second grade class who graduated with a degree in entomology. And he is now totally focused on tsetse flies. That sounds cool. And, and his mom told me that he would come home from school in second grade and say, Mr. Weinert, he'd be teaching class and there'd be a fly in the classroom and it would land on the ceiling. We had low ceilings, and he would just get a fish net and he would just catch that fly and he'd put it into the whatever tank we had that had something that eats flies, and he'd just go on teaching like it was nothing. He would have praying mantises or I don't know, frogs or something in there every year. And so that's really stuck with him, and we would do science and probably to a level that other second grade teachers didn't. And so it really kind of caught with him, and he had decided a career in entomology would be really cool.
Oh, wow, that's wonderful.
So yeah, he's now working with the Center of Disease Control or someone researching tsetse flies.
Wow.
Just in case they ever reach this country.
That must feel very rewarding for you.
It was neat. You I always joke like, I went into science because of you. Oh, I'm sorry. But
maybe you'll get one named after you.
Yes, fly.
The Weinert fly.
Oh yeah.
It's the
Mr. West Nile.
Is there something from your previous career that you feel like you've brought into teaching? Was there some valuable lessons that you've applied from one discipline to the next?
Well, part of it is the importance of communication and being able to connect with people. I have in software. It's no good if you write something and you're not listening to what people are saying.
Right.
And then when it goes out there, you have to hear about what they think about it. And it can be hard to hear sometimes because you think this is fantastic. They're going to love this, but then they don't understand how it works or why it's so cool. And it doesn't meet their needs and yada, yada, yada. And then you got to get back and you go back to the drawing board and you got to make something that works. And you cannot just go into something and say, I've got it figured out. And I think that as a new teacher, sometimes we do. I got to come in and I'm going to change the world and all this stuff. And you're going to get a lot of blowback on that. And you got to listen to it and think about it and talk to people who know better than you and just move ahead.
Right.
It's a great piece of advice. Do you still seek out that feedback and correction? And where does it come from now? Are you still revising? Or do you feel like you have a really good approach to what you're doing now?
Well, this is my 4th year in the math. It's my 3rd year teaching the 2 subjects, Algebra 1 and geometry. And so coming into this year, I felt like, okay, this will be just a nice click-along year. I have all the lessons, all the PowerPoints, all the homeworks, all is in the computer, and it should be no problem at all. But what's happened is we've got Common Core, and they're really trying to make that change from how we used to do things to how we're doing things now. So it's a challenge every day to take the old lesson and say, okay, how can we do this better? And I can foresee that now happening for the rest of my career, is that when I bring the lesson from last year, don't just throw it in there and do it, but okay, how can I do this better? What happened with it?
Right. So Common Core has directly affected the way that you're teaching, and you feel like that is, from what it sounds like, that it's a good thing, that it's working well.
It is, if there is a buy-in from the teachers and an acceptance from the students and parents that we're willing to give this a try.
Right.
I grew up in the 60s. That's last century, and that was, I hit right at the time of what they called the new math. And I was in a school where all of the teachers were drinking the Kool-Aid, also from the previous century, on the new math, that they were all bought in on it. So the education in math that I and my peers got at the school I was at was very different than the other schools in the district. Right. And new math was very quickly replaced because people didn't buy into it. But looking back on it now, I can see in my career in software and in how I view math now, that was really formative, even the stuff they did in second grade. So I'm willing to give this a good try. Right. But it is difficult. It is not easy to make these changes because it's something you have to do every day. And the curriculum isn't really, it says it on the cover, but it's not really Common Core. So we're bringing in a lot of other stuff, and it's a lot of work.
So there's a difference, as I've seen, from the Common Core standards and then whatever curriculum that you're handed, because that's more of like a private institution that has created that curriculum that says Common Core.
Yeah, it says it on the cover, but it really looks a lot like the same book I had in high school.
Right. And so I often feel that some of the criticisms of Common Core are actually criticisms more for the curriculum that's being created than the actual standards of themselves.
Well, it's and I get the criticisms because it is not the way that people have learned math.
Right.
And so when a parent sits down to help their child, and the parent is a educated person, and it's like, I don't know why I can't teach my child Algebra 1.
Right.
Because I don't see why they're doing it this way.
And I can foresee in our futures, in all of our futures teaching, in every teacher's future, a change happening periodically in which we'll shift again, and we'll shift again, and we'll shift again. So I think what might happen, what can happen to teachers who have been teaching a long time, is they can lose the passion that they came in with, that I'm going to fight the world mentality and change everything, once the pushback comes, and then once a shift comes, and once a change comes, and some of these things forced, right? Not all optional. So what should teachers stay mindful of, do you think, to continue to teach with a passion, or continue to teach with the intent of lifting up the next generation of students?
I think you have to, look at the kids, and it can be tough. If I got, 230 kids that I'm seeing every 2 days, it's tough to see them individually because they come in and there's a pile of them in my class, and then they go out, and it's hard to connect there, but it's something that you have to be consciously doing. You have to be intentional about that. It's not just about the curriculum, and I put it out there and they got to get it. And so and just to be aware that it's tough to be a kid these days. I guess it's always been, but it seems tougher now than when I was that age.
In what ways do you think? Can you expand on that a little bit? Like, how do you see that shifting over time?
Well, if I was in high school and I did something stupid, I wouldn't tell anybody. Nobody would know. But now someone's videoed it, and it's on Snapchat or wherever the kids are meeting, Instagram, and it goes out and everybody knows. And you feel like you have all of these eyes on you all the time. And, maybe they don't realize that it's a very short news cycle in that tomorrow it's going to be someone else's mistake that's going to get put out there. But things feel so permanent to them when it happens to them. So I just don't see how they can deal with that. And they're on their phones so much that they don't see the greater world as much as we would have.
That's an important point. Go on.
There's a natural insecurity at that age, and people only put their best face out on Facebook, on Instagram. And so everybody's life looks so much better.
That's true.
And so when they look at it and they see the party they weren't invited to and all the other people that they know there, I mean, I can only imagine how hard that would be for a developing mind.
That's a good point too. It almost seems like a personal competition of who can put out the best profile, and popularity's become more than just what someone saw you do in person. It becomes how you lived your whole life.
Yeah. The idea of being popular has changed. You know, how many likes do you get?
It's quantifiable now.
It really is. And I think that, there's been research that shows that depression is higher among youths, and they're linking it too. I think they called it the iGen, the iGeneration.
What I'm curious about is, could we look at this question? So if our attention spans in the younger generations has shortened, if we can jump to that conclusion or acknowledgement, when someone comes into your class for the first time and it's math, and when you taught second grade, isn't there this thing where all students think they're still good at things, right? They haven't doubted their art skills yet. Everyone can do anything. But by the time we get to high school, some of us have already determined, for whatever reason, that some people come in with the I'm not good at math, or therefore I don't like math, or I'm not interested in this. How do you work with that? How do you draw them in and make connections and create a desire where it's a good environment for learning?
One thing I try to do is I try to not leave people behind. That is, if they struggled in the first chapter of what we're doing, and we take a test and they've done poorly, and I allow them to redo the test, to come in and see me. We're going to go over that until you get that grade good. Because if you don't know that first chapter, how are they going to do well the rest of the year? So everything, for the entire semester is, all the grades are still open. So a student says, Mr. Weinert, I need help in this, with my grade. My grade's a D. Okay, well, let's look at it. Oh, well, the chapter 2 test you did poorly and you're missing these assignments. Let's get those done. Come in and see me. We'll go over the stuff, take the test. And, just make sure that you have that. And it really does make a difference when they are able to get a little bit of help. It doesn't have to be a lot. And then to retake a test, it does build their confidence.
It doesn't make everything so finite. Like, this is the beginning, middle, and end, and we cannot go back.
Yeah.
There's no turning back. You missed it. Sorry. We're going to keep going.
I say, math is not like history. And sorry, but in history,
No need to apologize for that.
history, someone could totally fail the Etruscans and still do well on the Inquisition.
For sure.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Whereas if you fail, basic solving, there's no way you're going to handle, quadratics.
Right.
Of course. Right. So everyone knows that.
Yeah.
So that whole idea that we're going to make sure that we can get this, we get that, and not everyone does. Some people are so detached that I cannot drag them in, and I can do what I can, but it's
really a shift of mindset that we need to teach them. I like to tell my students, because this is my first year teaching wood shop, so I feel like coming from elementary school to wood shop and then years of science and math before that the stakes academically are a little bit lower, right? Because I'm not being scrutinized as much, but I still want to hold them to a certain standard. And so we do math problems and puzzles, and I see kids come in and they see that it's difficult and they'll shut down immediately because they don't want to fail, is my assumption. They don't want to try and fail. And so what I tell them is that it's more important to me that you've engaged with it and failed than if you were to just come in and shut down. It's okay to fail. I use the Adam Savage quote from Mythbusters: failure is always an option. And it really speaks to, teaching woodshop and making, that you can always mess up. You can always start over. And I like that mentality, especially with something like math, where you're going to learn so much by engaging with it and messing up, as long as you get the aha moment and realize, oh, that's where I made my mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're called teachers. We're not called graders or punishers or judges. It's by the end of the term is, did they learn this stuff?
Right.
And that's, if they've learned it, then I've done my job and they've done their job. If they haven't, no matter what grade they got, then I failed. So
I knew from early on when I met you, just to shoot in a slightly different direction here, that you had a really a friendly disposition and a funny personality. Do you use that in the classroom?
Yeah, we do. I mean, there's sometimes just silly things that I know just to get a groan out of everybody.
That's fun.
Yeah. that you're going to put this on your snappy chat or something like that, and that acting like I'm totally computer illiterate, even though they know I have a degree.
Right. I had a teacher who was called it My Face instead of Facebook.
My Face. and when we do word problems and things like that, to call out actually the ridiculousness of some of the quote unquote real life situations. They're supposed to bring real life situations into this. Right. But a real life situation is not a seagull picking up a golf ball and dropping it, having it hit on the top of the tree. And you know how tall the tree is and how high the seagull was, but you don't know how long, you know the height of the seagull and how long the ball dropped, but you don't know the height of the tree.
Okay.
Which, if you think about it, is the only thing you could possibly know about that situation. But that's a real life situation.
Right.
So we kind of bring those out and expose those to the class and say, this is obviously ridiculous. But then you're challenged to actually find good real life problems.
Right.
And so.
Yeah, I remember the one when I was teaching math. It was, you're in a hot air balloon 100 feet above sea level, and your friend is in a submarine 150 feet below sea level. How far apart are you? It's like practical.
But
that sounds like something you'd put on Snappy Chat if you could get that. You'd get a lot of interest.
I had a kid in class who was she was giving me the variables in a linear equation, which she had said, I just need something that tells me where it hits the y-axis. And it could be anything because we just need to be parallel to this line, any number at all. Mm-hmm. And she said, 2. And I said, really? And it was just a little throwaway thing. But this kid right here laughed for like 10 minutes. Like, I'll never do that one again.
That's great. Yeah. Those are precious moments to me. Yeah. I mean, that's the little things that wake you up and like, this is great. What's happening right now is awesome. What is one thing that, as they leave your class at the end of a semester or a year, outside of the curriculum, that you would want them to walk away with from you? You'd feel good if they had learned this.
Well, what I would love for them to feel, and really do feel, is that I enjoyed teaching them.
That's cool. That's
and cool. I enjoyed them.
Right.
And that I am doing something that I like because I have chosen to do that. And so that's, I think, an important message to the kids, that they're worth me doing this, even though it's just math. And most of them are not going to be using higher level math in their careers. I mean, even though we say, well, yeah, you know. But the ones who choose to or go into those degrees will, or if they're in those fields, the trades and things. But many people don't. But the idea that you can learn this stuff and you can think at this level is important to them. So I want them to have that confidence in their abilities, whether or not they're using it.
Yeah, to see that they have the skills to learn this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there a teacher who brought that to you when you were in school that you can recall?
Well, I had a teacher. He this is my 5th grade teacher, and he was a first-year teacher. And I don't know what happened to him, but he was just weird as a teacher. That I remember we would spend afternoons just making board games and then playing board games that we made up and had to roll the dice and all this stuff. And I don't know what that taught us, but he had snakes in his classroom, 2 gopher snakes that he had caught somewhere, and this big tank. And then he had to sign a paper or something, and he could come in after school and he would feed mice to the snakes. He could watch the snakes eat the mice. And he thought mice were too expensive, and he could feed the snakes with rats because they're bigger.
Oh, dear.
So he got rats, but the snakes wouldn't take the rats.
Right.
So he put the rats aside. Then the rats started having babies. So what he started doing was he'd have, this might have been a first-year teacher, but the rats would have babies, and then he would give us the babies, either just me, just one student or 2 students together. We got these little baby rats. Then he had them in the classroom in all these cages, and then we had to teach them a trick. And then he had a rat circus. Could you imagine this day and age, this happening?
That was another generation.
And then we got to take home the rats at the end.
Take home rats.
So I have to ask, like, what tricks?
My rat walked a tightrope to get something. Other rats would do a maze or push a ball or something like that. So it was really cool. It was a lesson in how do you teach someone to do something. So that was a lesson in being a teacher.
Positive reinforcement.
Sunflower seeds is what the trick is. But his name was Dale, and I named my rat Dale, and he got a huge kick out of that.
And maybe one day you'll be named after a tsetse fly.
Yeah.
Well, walking that tightrope down to the final end of the show here, we've got another question for you, is that if someone's walking into their first classroom experience as a teacher, one thing you want to tell them as they go through the door to their first lesson, what would it be?
Probably, it's a little hard to say, but probably the best information I could have got would be, you don't really know anything yet. You have been in teacher college, and well, there's a lot of good information there. You're not in the battlefield yet.
Right.
And you're going to have all these kids looking at you, and it's not going to go how you expect. So you have to be able to adapt and adjust. And you have to keep your eye on what's important. And unfortunately, part of what's important is keeping your job. So in our public schools, is the first 2 years is tremendously important. So you ask for help every chance you get. Ask the administrators who are evaluating you. What can I do here? How can I do this? How can I do this better?
Yeah.
And then make those changes that they recommend, because they have experience and your teachers around you have experience. And too many times people lock themselves in their room and feel like, I have a degree, I have this credential, I should be able to do this.
Right.
And it's really, really hard.
But they need to realize they're not alone.
Yeah.
There are people out there that can support them.
Yeah, exactly. And just be willing to admit that I don't know everything. I certainly don't. So
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Todd, we're so grateful that you took the time
All right,
to be with
well,
us
glad I could
today.
be here.
We'll hope you have you back again another time and expand more.
Well, everything I said last time was
Hey, it's a rat race out there. So on behalf of Tavis Beam, I'm Danny Hauger, and your homework this week is what's something that you would like support with? Todd mentioned getting help, asking for advice. Let's have the community share some thoughts and advice on how to improve that. Maybe share a link to a resource that could be beneficial for you. Best comment in the comment section down below will get pinned for extra credit up to the top of the list. And we thank you for joining us. We'll see you on the next edition. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, subscribe on YouTube and on Podbean. And we are so grateful that you are inspiring the future of teachers. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.